My name is Grant Hinchcliff. I own G. Hinchcliff and Associates, and I am a financial consultant. My dad was a career naval officer. He was a graduate of the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. And because of that, my mom and my dad and the other 5 brothers and sisters, we traveled all up and down the West Coast. It helped me to connect with people. You kind of lose the friends that you had when you moved, especially being younger, and you just had to kind of adapt to that. And so that's what I did. I went to Utah State University and started what I thought was going to be a education and hopefully a job in the Forest Service or the Department of Agriculture. First range management class I sat down in, the professor asked us, and there were about 300 of us in this amphitheater, asked us how many of us wanted to work for the government in some capacity. So I raised my hand, a bunch of other folks raised their hand too. How many of you want to work for the state government, this, that, and the others? And finally he said, well, there are no jobs out there for you. So I decided I needed to look for something else to get my degree in, like real quick. And I got a degree in German, and I was getting a degree in chemistry as well. But I was married at that time and needed a job, and so I went into law enforcement. I spent 10 years in law enforcement. I left as a detective sergeant over a proactive felony squad, and that was a lot of fun. But unfortunately, the state forced all of the cities into a state retirement fund at that time. And if you know anything about police officers and firefighters, generally we're working another job part-time. And I didn't want to spend all that time away from my family where I was going to have at least a decent retirement in order to take care of and be able to take care of my children. Just before I got married, a few years before I got married, I sat down with my dad and I asked him about investing. I was 21 years old, and my dad was very conservative, very frugal with money. And so I would go to him for investing advice. And I started investing at age 21. And my goal was to be able to retire at age 55. I missed it by a year. I retired at age 56. My wife and I traveled for a couple of months. We had all kinds of fun together. I got back home. I found out there's only so many times that I can clean out the garage, only so many times I can clean out the basement, cut the lawn, wash down the walkways, and my wife was encouraging me to find something else to do, which I agreed with. So I looked around at different areas, and at that time, her brother Scott was ill. He had, unfortunately, had ALS. So he asked me to come and take a look at his finances to see if he could retire. Now, at that time, Scott and his wife Ann were living in Northern California, and she was the head librarian for Siskiyou County, a wonderful woman. So I went there and I spent some time with them, went through their finances, and I had to tell my brother, who had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, that he couldn't retire. He wasn't financially able to retire. He continued to have to work until he was physically incapable of working. And shortly thereafter, he passed away. Unfortunately, a year later, Ann had a very aggressive cancer, and she passed away about a year and 3 months after Scott did. So I went back as the co-executor of the estate. Ann's brother was the other executor, and we helped the kids out with the death of their mother. And so I kind of got a bug that I would be able to help some folks who are in similar circumstances, people who are getting ready to retire or were retired, and help them out just to make sure that they would be okay in their retirement. So I have been able to help out with that. I enjoy doing it, and it's something that's kind of I don't want to call it a calling, but I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy making new friends with these folks I've been able to help.